Greetings and salutations, marketing fans. Welcome once again to another edition of the Marketing Diner podcast, or in this case, the video podcast. My name is Jared Degnan. In case this is your first time tuning into the show, we do one thing and one thing only here, and that is find ways of helping you feed your brand rather than your ego. Now, I know that I spoke on the last podcast and I said that I was going to have an interview with Elka Martin, who is the CEO of Brandware Public Relations and my new boss. But as things happen, things are getting busy, and we're going to have the interview with her, but it's probably going to be later on down the line. So I apologize for that. But nonetheless, we actually have a pretty decent video podcast for you today, and that's really talking about one of the most important issues in marketing today, and that is really tracking and measuring return on investment, or ROI. More specifically today, we're talking about how you can map your social media activities to what's called the purchase funnel. Now, in case you've never heard of the purchase funnel, it's a very basic model that is taught everywhere from, undergraduate marketing courses all the way up to MBAs. And one of the cool things about the purchase funnel is it takes you from the initial stages of a customer learning about your product all the way down to when they actually purchase it. And the most basic of these models, and there are a lot of different acronyms for it, but the one that is most often repeated is called AIDA, which stands for attention, interest, desire, and action. And the idea is that each of these stages of activity can be associated with various marketing tactics and various marketing expenditures, and therefore various marketing measures. And if you are able to track each level of these, you are able to get a better idea of how to optimize your marketing spend and your marketing activities. So I was actually at Bar Camp this past weekend, and here in Atlanta, and I had a great time. Really got to meet a lot of great people, a lot of really smart guys in the tech field, but I got to teach a session on AIDA and a session on marketing ROI, and really just a great amount of people to meet. And it got me thinking about the fact that I've talked about this before, but I really haven't illustrated it, and I haven't really put it into action for the viewers. So I thought this would be a great opportunity in order to really illustrate what I'm talking about and how you can take it today and actually apply it to what you're doing in your own little corner of the marketing world. So let's take a look at the AIDA model and the different metrics that can actually apply to it. So let's start off with awareness. Well, if you are, for instance, working on a Twitter campaign for some reason, and you're trying to explain to your boss how exactly Twitter is going to make you money, the first thing you can start with is just the size of your audience, the size of the reach. There are plenty of websites out there that can not only tell you your influence as a tweeter, but also how many people you could potentially reach through your network of followers. So from that, you have to go to the interest level. And one of my favorite metrics within interest is engagement rate. And engagement is really it's a little bit misleading because engagement is usually very, very low for Twitter followers. So you may have 1,000 followers, but maybe only 3 or 4 of them on a regular basis either @reply you or retweet your messages. And this can be a little bit misleading because if you peg everything to that single engagement rate, it can open you up to a lot of questions from your superiors as to why are you really doing why are you actually doing Twitter, and why, if you have so many followers, is nobody actually coming to you and actually responding to what you're saying? And that's where the next level comes in, desire. Now, desire is probably one of my favorite areas of the AIDA model, if only because it really, it's a very creative, you have to get very creative in order to figure out how exactly you're going to match up a metric. And in this case, with a Twitter campaign, I'd really say that you want to go with something like click-through. So you could measure a click-through by putting bit.ly links in there. And bit.ly links will tell you how many people have viewed your link, how many people clicked through to your link, and how many people actually visited your link at what times during the day versus when you actually put the tweet out. And then finally, you have this course of action. You have this level of interest that actually brings you from, clicking through and listening to the content or actually, translating to doing what you want the customer to do. And in this case, it can be anything from like purchasing a ticket to requesting more information, filling out a lead form, etc. But the idea here is that throughout each of these 4 platforms, you are putting in trackable metrics. You're actually putting into place things that you can measure, and not only measure independently, but measure against each other. And I'll give you a great example of that. Think about it in terms of conversion rate, or a ratio of like awareness to interest, interest to desire, desire to action. And I apologize, my parents' dog has decided that he wants to bark a little bit, but hopefully you can't hear that because I've got the mic on. Boss, shut the heck up. Always good to have a co-star in your podcasts. So let's go back to the example. So, if you are engaging in a Twitter growth campaign and you have a ratio of awareness over engagement, or awareness over desire, so that would be your Twitter reach divided by either your engagement rate or the click-throughs that you would, the raw click-throughs that you would have to your links. Now, if your Twitter reach is going up, but your engagement or your click-through rate is either staying flat or going down, what that probably means is that you're growing in followers, but they're not growing as engaged as you want. So it's either they're staying flat or they're staying the same, or you're not following along with the total proportion, which is not in and of itself a bad thing. However, you want them to grow at the same time. So what I would do in that particular case is that I would actually set up a goal. Ask yourself, what is it that you want to do? Do you want to reach more people, or do you want to get people to actually start engaging, or do you want to get people to, you really don't care about people responding to you, but you want them to more click through to whatever your content you have in there. What I would do is, instead of look at, okay, how do I increase my follower base, I would look at testing various types of content and various styles of tweeting and figure out what is going to be the most effective at getting those prospects, your Twitter followers, to go on to that next level and actually click through to your content. And that's what it's really all about when it comes down to it. It's continuous improvement. It's showing by virtue of the fact that you're able to track these things, which is not always possible through every marketing medium, but being able to track these things and being able to say, the things that we're doing, it's improving our ability to relate to the customer, it's increasing the number of connections we have to our customer, and creating a new channel for us to communicate with our customers. Or in Twitter's case, it is your ability to pass on information and have them pass on information to their followers. So, just to put this in context, as I've said before, ROI is not the destination. It is really the journey. What you really want to do is you want to talk to your team, you want to talk with your boss, and you want to show them that you're applying this testing methodology, because in doing so, you're showing a rigor that is not always possible with all types of marketing medium and all types of marketing tactics. The idea is that, social media is very, very trackable. It's also very personable, and it's a new way of communicating with your audience. And we have to find new ways of articulating this to our bosses, because, as we've talked about previously, a lot of marketing models have been built on this idea of, if you take a certain marketing spend and put it on traditional medium, you have a lot of data behind it, and that data can tell you that if you spend X number of dollars, you're going to get a Y bump in sales, which is great. But social media is untested. So when you're thinking about it from an investment model perspective, you're going to invest in the medium and the tactics that are shown to prove results. However, if you're trying to convince your boss or your team to invest in social media, you have to collect data. You have to show that what you are doing is positively generating information. Because when it comes down to it, a lot of companies from Dell to Comcast have realized that the folks who are engaging with you on Twitter, they're more likely to talk to their friends, and therefore they are a higher valued customer than just someone who's going to be passively reading a print ad, listening to a radio ad, or watching a television ad. So, just to summarize, always be testing. That should be your mantra. That should be your absolute positive goal in life, to be able to take everything that you do, track it, measure it, report it, because that's the way you're going to really, really impress your team, impress your boss, and gain legitimacy for your social media program. So that's actually all that we have time for today, but I just wanted to, number one, thank you guys for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. It's a lot of fun doing these podcasts, and I hope to continue on this season with all of the new episodes and really bring you some great innovative content, continuing to look at different marketing models, continue to push the envelope, especially with respect to applying traditional business methods to the social media world. I also want to say that I'm going to put together some links of some great tracking mechanisms. So even if you're not used to tracking a lot of your social media stuff, I'll put it together in a list, and I'll probably put it out on about Wednesday of this week. So if you follow us at Marketing Diner, you'll be able to get those set of links whenever I put them out. Also, if you have comments or questions, please don't hesitate to use our Google Voice response line. And that number is 202-596-7220. That number again is 202-596-7220. And that is a DC local number. We're going to keep it. But I'd love to hear from you guys. I'd love to know what you guys are thinking. I'd like to know your responses to some of these video podcasts, because that's the way that I figure out the best content that I can possibly deliver to you guys. So I'll say once again, thank you so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. I wish you guys all the best, and until next week, I will catch you all on the flip side.